welcome back to our channel. Henry is here with me to tell you guys all about flying with your surf dog or an ESA. Because either one of those can fly in the cabin and also have to go through security. So we have it all written down because it's quite a lot of information. But Henry and I have been on over, it's gotta be over like 10 flights now at this point, including international flights. It's gotta be like much further over 10 flights, especially if you're including back and forth. And yeah, so we've been to California, New York, Ireland, Alaska, all the things. So we know by now the whole procedure with going through the airport and what you should bring and how you should prepare. So without further ado, let's give you guys this long list of tips before flying with your surf dog. Also, isn't this cute? Henry got this for me for Christmas. So I only love my bed and my dog. So if you're wondering where he got that from, just Google it. You guys will find like a billion of like these types of things online. Just Google, I only love my bed and my dog. Anyways, I am trying to section off this video between what to do prior to the airport, when you get to the airport, boarding the plane. I'm gonna try to keep it in that timeline. So let's do it. All right, so the very first thing when you are deciding to fly with your service dog or your ESA, I'm gonna, by the way, just say service dog, but I mean service dog or ESA in terms of the fact that, like I said, you still have to go through security. They still have to remain like under your seat in the plane, all those things. I'm not saying that they're interchangeable, but for this video, for those purposes, they will be. Okay, so when you are deciding to fly with your service dog, you are going to go to your specific airline online, whether or not you have booked your ticket already or you are booking your ticket, like currently. You want to go to that specific airline website, go to it's usually the accessibility link. Sometimes it's all the way at the bottom of the page. Sometimes it's up top where it says services. Go at accessibility. It'll either say flying with pets, flying with animals, guests with disabilities is usually where it's under, is guests with disabilities. You'll go to that drop down and it'll say service animals, and it'll have a whole section on flying with service animals, ESAs, and psychiatric service dogs. Some airlines, however, it's very few of them, also allow service dogs in training, but you're going to want to check with that specific airline. Then from there, it'll have an outline of paperwork that you need, whether or not, whether or not you need a doctor's note or rabies vaccine, or in some cases, a health certificate if you're going international. But it'll all be on that website. So you'll get like a rundown through there. Also, when you're booking your ticket, 99% of airlines have a box that you now check off if you are flying with a service dog. They have a box when you're booking your physical ticket that you want to check off. After either you've booked your ticket or if you want to book it over the phone, you got your Baymax. You need to tell them you need to tell them that you have a service dog. And I say that you need to because there are some instances in which case let's take the tab off this, in which it benefits you to not, to not tell people ahead of time. Like in some cases with hotels or with Uber, it kind of is better for you to just show up because a lot of people don't know the laws. So you just show up and you're like, I have my service dog, and you go through the whole thing. Airlines is not like that. It is like the complete opposite. You have to make sure that it is documented somewhere prior to your flight that you are bringing your service dog. Okay, like seriously. The only time we've ever run into even like remote issues is when it's either not documented or somebody documented it incorrectly. So call in, you have a service animal, they will ask you what tasks. Make sure you say that if it's a medical alert or response, is gonna be different in this case than a solely psychiatric service dog or an ESA. So you need to tell them, the difference. Well, you don't need to tell them the difference. You need to tell them what you have, what your service dog does. Generally, you have to tell them the weight and the breed as well. So after you've called your airline, you're all good to go there. You've double checked all the things that you need. When it comes to packing, so I know that a lot of people know how to pack for their service dog, but when you're flying, it's a little bit different because if I generally like check my luggage or whatever. So I check my luggage that has like all of Henry's main food, but in my carry-on, I will bring 1 to 3 days worth of food in my carry-on. Now the reason why I'll bring 1 day, if it's just a like if we're going from like Nashville to New York, I'll bring like 2 days worth of food if we're going to like California, because I have been stuck at the airport for 24 hours before. Not with Henry, thank goodness, but it does happen. And then internationally, I'll do 3 days because it would take a longer time, obviously, to get the appropriate food internationally, even if it is available locally around. It's, you know, you get what I'm saying. So 1 to 3 days worth of food, and if you were to have to use that, you would ration it. You wouldn't just like give your dog like 3 cups of food. You would like, if like, for instance, Henry, his minimum would be like 2 cups of food, because like if we're stuck in an airport, we're not doing much, you know? So bring extra food as just basically the main thing. And then the second thing is make sure you have a travel bowl with you attached to your carry-on. The third thing is make sure that you have a emergency potty cleanup bag, especially if you haven't flown before. I carry Henry's emergency potty cleanup kit with us a lot of places. However, the airport, especially like I said, if you haven't flown before, can be really stressful for some dogs, and sometimes stress just does things to their tummy and you just don't know. So I would rather be safe than sorry. So bring an emergency potty cleanup kit with wipes, baggies, extra Ziploc bags, gloves, what else? Did I say potty pads? Potty pads, if I didn't say that. Now the reason why I say bring a potty pad is because if you are stuck on the runway and you are not taking off and suddenly your 5-hour flight turns into an 8-hour flight and you just weren't expecting it, bring a potty pad in case of emergency and you need to have your dog relieve himself in the restroom. Henry, that's not for you, this giveaway. If you need to have your dog relieve himself in the restroom, if there is not a service dog relief area, you would take up the potty pad and have them go. It's also really good to clean up any messes really quickly. So if they do have an accident, you just flip the potty pad over and it's really absorbent. I would also pack some sort save me. Thank you. Okay. So, sweet, thank you. I would also pack some sort of chew for your dog. Nothing that smells because you're gonna be on an airplane. But I would pack either a dental chew. I think I have packed a trachea before, but those can smell depending on which ones you get. Anyways, pack some sort of chew for your dog for either takeoff and or landing, but make sure it's something that your dog is used to. Don't like get a brand new chew and give it to them because it could really mess with their tummy, and that's just like the last thing you want. Don't change anything about your dog's diet like at least a week before like flying. And I mean like at least a week, like seriously. Like I wouldn't change it like honestly like a month before. Because you need to make sure that their tummy is all good. So some sort of chew to give them during takeoff and landing, especially if your dog is a little bit more, maybe they're not nervous, but you know, you just want them to settle down, just be comfortable. I would also bring if you have a dog that like sheds a lot, some sort of mat to put down under your dog, because you have to remember that airplanes have carpet on the bottom. So bring some sort of mat to put down so that they can lay down there and they don't get hair everywhere. Trust me, it'll make you like much more friendly with your fellow passengers if like when they get up, you don't see like just like a ground like floor full of hair, because I've had that happen before. Where like Henry got up and it was just dog hair. And I feel bad because when you're bringing your service dog, in my opinion, like it shouldn't change anything. There shouldn't be hair, there shouldn't be like a smell, it shouldn't change anything. So I would bring some sort of mat You can bring like just a towel. You can bring a freaking piece of cloth and just put it down on the seat below you. And then the other thing is research your airport before you go. Some airports have relief areas inside. Some airports, I believe, is it LAX or San Diego? I think it's San Diego Airport has a relief area outside. So even though, yeah, they have a relief area, it's outside, so you need to be outside security to go there. So do your research. Not all airports have relief areas. And that brings me to my next point. I always, now, caution, clear this with your vet. I am not a vet, this is not medical advice, but I always fast Henry, meaning I do not feed him or water him prior to our flight. I usually try to get like overnight flights or early morning flights, so it doesn't even make a difference because he would just be sleeping anyway. He wouldn't be eating and he wouldn't be drinking. But when we went to Ireland, that was like an 8 or 9 hour flight, but I didn't feed Henry 24 hours. Now that was before our longest flight. For water, I would stop watering him like maybe 6 hours prior to our flight. Now if it is a Friday and we are leaving on a Saturday morning, I will feed and water him Friday night, and then I won't feed and water him on Saturday morning. So he gets his last meal. So you're gonna wanna check with your vet and just see what works best for you guys. But I do recommend some form of either fasting them from food or water, or possibly both. I almost always fast him from food, and then water, I will start to fast him. Usually, I don't think I've ever done more than 6 hours, or like overnight. And once again, it's gonna be different for every dog. Also, I'll like try to like, not overwater him, but I make sure he's really hydrated before we start the fast, if that makes sense. But I wouldn't overfeed them. Your dog will be fine. Your dog can go up to 3 days without eating, like safely, like perfectly fine, according to my vet. But you don't wanna overfeed them in preparation for them not eating. That could mess with their stomach, so don't do that. Trust me, your dog will be fine. So yeah, and then the next thing is to bring treats, obviously. I always put treats in my pocket because when you're going through security, they don't care if you have like a few treats in your pocket. So I always carry treats in my pocket. And also I always carry like a bag of treats, depending on how you treat your dog. I carry that also in my carry-on. Okay, so nearing your flight. I would suggest, if you fly often, or if you do have more mobility issues, I would suggest looking into potentially getting TSA PreCheck. It is $100, I believe for 5 years it covers you. Henry, come here. Henry. I believe it covers you for 5 years, but what it does is when I go through security, I go through the short line. I don't have to remove lightweight jackets or my shoes, which is a huge help. And it makes it much easier and much faster to go through security. And for someone who has POTS and who's not necessarily using a wheelchair, it's helpful. I don't know how many of you guys fly often, but airport wheelchairs are often like far and few in between. Henry, we're not doing this right now, buddy. Nope, wait, I'll show you. No, you guys, this one. But airport wheelchairs are far and few in between, even, you know, so you either have to wait for an airport wheelchair or you can have TSA PreCheck, and the whole security process is a lot shorter. Now, when it comes to going through security, you can do one of two things. You can walk through security first, and then you will call your dog in through the metal detector after you. Henry, what are you doing? You will call your dog through the metal detector after you. Your dog has all their gear on, including, you can even walk through with an e-collar, but you have to take the remote out of your pocket and send it through, so either way. but you can send your dog through with all the gear on. When they get through the metal detector, assuming that the metal detector went off, or you have packs on your dog, they will need to be wanded down by a security officer or TSA officer. The other option, which is what we do, is your dog can be completely unvested and walk through with just like a flat collar that doesn't have any metal on it. Walk through, and then they don't set off the metal detector and they don't have to be wanded down. The reason why we opt to do this is because Henry just gets very excited when people are touching him, and to me it's easy. He stays in the zone if nobody touches him. So it's easier for us. Everyone does it differently. It doesn't matter how you do it. If it's easier for you to unvest your dog and have them walk through naked, then do that. If it's easier to just have them wanded down, then do that. But it's very easy to go through security. And honestly, by the time you are through security, you've already done everything else. Like, the person from the airline was your gatekeeper. Unless if your dog is losing its mind through security, they're not the gatekeeper. It was the person through the airline. So now you're through security. Like, I recommend obviously going to your gate and seeing how far it is of a walk. Then you can see if you can find any relief, like find your gate, then see if you can find any relief areas. Sometimes relief areas are in completely different sections of the terminal. So that's important to know, because if you need to take a train to a relief area, you're gonna need to add on extra time. So there's that. I always find our gate first and see what's going on. When it comes to finally boarding the plane, you guys are all, you're all set. You're ready to board the plane. They ask if anyone needs extra time, you can board first. I always board first because it eliminates having to walk through like a sea of outreached hands trying to pet your dog, because you have to remember how wide the aisle is. So your dog is either going in behind you or going in front of you. I always send Henry in first because it's easier, but either way, doesn't matter. We always board first. I get Henry situated and we're good to go. Okay, so now sometimes airlines are really great and they'll either give you bulkhead seating or a seat with extra legroom. Bulkhead seating is just like, it's the seat with extra legroom. But the thing is, you guys, is airlines are not required to do any of that. They do it as a courtesy. Like my dad, for example, he has a fixed leg. They don't just like give you, like they don't just fly you in first class because you need like accessibility. I'm not saying it's right or wrong or whatever, but the point of the matter is that they don't owe you anything, is my point. So the only thing that you are guaranteed, unless if you called them prior and you know that you are getting bulkhead seating or seating with extra leg space, you are going to be in a regular seat. The person next to you does not owe you their foot space. Like, this is gonna sound harsh. I don't mean it to sound this harsh, but at the same time, I mean, it's kind of like service dog etiquette. The person next to you does not owe you their leg space. The person on your other side does not owe you their leg space. You are not Henry. You are not allowed to have your dog out in the aisle. So, typically, you have 31 inches of leg room. I give up my leg room every time. Like, I give it up to Henry. Like, he has basically all my leg space because my husband, in the most loving way, does not want to give up his leg space, which I understand. So your dog only has like that amount of room. And if you brought something to put under the seat, then your dog has that much less room. But I want you guys to keep that in mind. It is, unless if, like I said, you know beforehand that you're getting the seat with extra leg room, your dog needs to know how to fit in that space. Because it's not fair to the other people that paid the same price for their seat to have to accommodate you and your dog. It's just not. It's just like the way it is, you guys. Unfortunately, if you want extra space, then by all means, buy an extra seat. Or buy a seat that has the extra legroom if you're not upgraded by the airline. You know, it's just how it is. I would be very frustrated if I'm on a flight and yeah, your dog's really cute, but dude, I'm already sitting like this, you know, like what I'm saying? Like, I don't want, like, airlines are small enough. So make sure your dog has a really good tuck to be able to go under the seat. And that's where the chew comes in, because you can get them to just lay down and settle. If you think that your dog might be like extra excited or you're just really nervous, make sure that they get their energy out beforehand. We used to exercise Henry. We used to start like really exercising him hard like 2 days before a flight. Like spending like 4 hours at the dog park, and my husband would take him on a run and like do all of these things to really tire him out prior to a flight. But now we don't do that anymore because Henry he knows the drill and he goes to sleep. But if you're nervous about that, then take the extra steps to exhaust your dog so that they just need a nap and they just nap through the whole flight. If your dog does start to whine or freak out, the anxiety of you like transferring that to your dog will make it worse. So just keep calm. Flight attendants have seen everything. I've been on flights where there's other dogs and they have not stopped whining the entire time. It happens, you guys. Don't let your anxiety transfer to your dog. The other tip that I have is when we are taking off and when we are landing, I don't touch Henry unless if he makes the extra effort to comfort me. I don't touch him, I don't reach for him. I don't indicate that anything is gonna change. So we're taking off and this is just totally normal. I don't like reach him to caress him unless I need something. Same thing with landing. I don't like preemptively put the anxiety that something's about to happen. Like I'm not like, oh my gosh, like whatever. Like sometimes we've landed, I gotta talk here all the time. We've landed and like we had extra space and Henry like stood up as we were landing, and like, you guys, no one cares that he suddenly stood up while we were landing. No. No one cares that he suddenly stood up while we were landing. Like, it didn't matter. Like, landing is like jostling for everyone. Sometimes he sleeps right through it, sometimes he stands up. Like, as long as your dog is in your foot space, you're fine. So, depending on how long I fasted Henry for in terms of water, sometimes I will begin to rehydrate him. The last like 2 hours or last hour of our flight, I'll begin to rehydrate him. I'll ask the flight attendants for some water and I'll just use his portable bowl so that he can start to rehydrate, because we're usually walking somewhere, like, you know, we're going somewhere after we land. So I always think it's a good idea to just start rehydrating just a little bit, you know, slowly. So yeah, I'm sorry that this took so long and that it was a little bit more unorganized than I hoped it would be, but I'm just gonna cut it off there, and thank you guys so much for watching. Should we give him a kiss? Even though you're trying to bite my arm off? Kiss. Good boy, kiss. Good boy. Thanks, guys. Good boy.